In my mind, there's one choice for roofing around here, and I'd go with your best choice. Whether it's time to replace your roof or repair it, Best Choice Roofing provides top-notch roofing services tailored to meet the unique needs of Detroit homes and businesses. They serve the region and inside the city of Detroit, too. You can find out more at bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit. That's bestchoiceroofing.com/Detroit, or call 313-474-7031. That's 313-474-7031. Hello, friends, and welcome back to your Daily Detroit. It is New Year's Eve, Tuesday, December 31st, 2024. I am Jer Stays, and joining me in the wee hours of Tuesday morning, I guess thanks to Monday Night Football, it's 2 late nights in a row for me, Fletcher Sharpe. It is so good to talk to you after a Lions victory, which I feel like was way closer than I wanted it to be.
Yeah, the defense kind of needed to wake up a little bit, which is understandable. They got some players who, while they might have been on the roster before, are still kind of figuring some stuff out. But when it mattered, the defense stepped up. Kirby Joseph, I always say he's one of the best safeties in the league. His development has been amazing, but I think with the performance he had this weekend, he might be the best safety in the NFL. And that's again, seeing where they drafted him and then seeing what he's done since, and he has the most interceptions in the NFL since he's been in the NFL. Like, since his career forward, add all the years together, he's had the most, and that's such a crazy number to think about.
It is a thing of beauty to watch. I got to say, though, Brian Branch better buy him dinner or do something nice for him after that interception, after that dumb penalty that Branch took.
Yeah, it happened twice. He had one in the quarter before where Purdy just overthrew the tight end, and Branch just came and shoved him down for like no reason. And Kirby Joseph actually intercepted it and ran it back into the end zone, but they're like, it's definitely pass interference. And then the following play, Kirby intercepted him, and I was like, all right, well, that makes up for it. And then I understand exactly why he reacted the way he reacted. It's like, I know baseball has unwritten rules, but football has like one or two. And one of them is you don't put your hand in someone's face, like inside the face mask in their face. You don't do that. That starts fights. And Jennings got up and put his hand in his face mask, in his face, and Branch pushed him, which any other point of the game, I don't really mind it. Even if the flag is thrown, I understand. But like, you just took the lead. They're coming back. This is not the time for that. And again, on a much better interception, Purdy locked in on Ricky Pearsall, who was just frying Terry and Arnold all night. But he locked in on Pearsall, and Kirby stepped up and caught it like it was intended for him. That was way more impressive because it shows that while he is in ball hawking mode back there, just kind of watching the quarterback's eyes, it shows he can diagnose plays really well, very quickly, and get to the spot before the receiver does. It's a talent to have as a safety.
For sure. This 40-34 win, I am excited about it. I'm glad to see that the Lions came out to play. They didn't just roll over for this one. There were some people who were saying, oh, maybe they should take the pedal off the gas, but that isn't Dan Campbell's way. We all know that. But 40-34 against a generally awful San Francisco team showed me some of the defensive concerns that I have. I apologize because I'm not emphasizing the positive as much, and Jared Goff did an excellent job, and there's a lot of good things to look forward to. But like, this defense, I am kind of more than worried. Like, offensively, yeah, you missed David Montgomery, but you know, we were able to piece things together. We put 40 points on the board, okay? But defensively, I am worried.
It's a work in progress. I know it's the final week of the season, but you kind of have to just go with what you have. And I understand that, like, at some point, even if they are recently off the practice squad or they're typically a backup, they're a starter now, and like, you got to expect them to do a little bit better. It's hard. One thing I will say that the 49ers did a bit better that maybe, say, the Vikings might not be able to do. Brock Purdy, for all of his issues as a quarterback, at times being very much a vanilla type player, he's mobile. He can move a little bit. And even on the touchdown run, you saw when he ran forward and pump faked, the defense froze. He was able to get in there. Sam Darnold can't do that. If they can contain the running backs and then do their best with Justin Jefferson and Addison as well, Sam Darnold will throw you an interception. Like, he will give you the game back. The game against the Packers with the Vikings, like, I was at someone else's house and the Vikings had gone up and I was like, oh, this game might be over a little bit. I turned off the TV, was waiting for my Uber to come get me, and as I got in there, Uber guy was like, man, I knew it. And I was like, what? He's like, Sam Darnold interception. And I was like, I knew it. I knew I should just stay. I knew I should have just stayed in the house because he'll give you a chance to win the game. But yeah, to most people, it's a little concerning. It's great that the defense finally woke up, but mobile quarterbacks and teams that like are kind of built like the 49ers on offense a little bit, they will give the Lions grief to start for sure. The Vikings offense is not like that. Yes, they can be way more explosive, but I think the Lions will be okay. I'm not going to outright say that they're going to win and guarantee it, but I think they will be a better matchup for the Vikings, especially because they're a divisional rival. So like, you know them a bit more than you would say know a different team.
Before we move past the 49ers, there were some notable things in this one, Fletcher, you want to talk about?
Yeah, there's a new record holder for most points scored in a Lions single season. Jake Bates has the record now after his performance this weekend. So going from bricklayer to UFO kicker to single season point scorer for an NFL franchise is a really quick whirlwind. So congrats to him. The Lions also become the first team in NFL history, so not just Detroit Lions history, but NFL history, to have 4 players go for 1,000 scrimmage yards in a season, with Jahmyr Gibbs, Dave Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jamison Williams. That's an explosive offense. That's an offense where like the ball is moving, the ball is humming. And to be the first team, and that's something you do on Madden. Like on Madden, your quarterback throws for 7,000 yards, your running back has whatever. But to see an actual NFL team do that, and do it not just like boringly, but very stylishly, and especially for it to be a Lions team that, if you've grown up with the Lions, have known that they typically don't have dynamic offenses like that, has been pretty great. I mean, that's something you even think about just growing up with the Lions. It's like Barry Sanders is the offense. And then later it's throw the ball to Calvin Johnson's the offense. And it's all right, just let Matt Stafford just huck it to somebody. Whereas now they have a fully dynamic offense and it's fun to watch. And for it to be something that has never happened in NFL history, I think is a pretty big achievement.
Totally. And you've got Jared Goff, who's not that far away from Matthew Stafford's franchise number of touchdowns thrown, I believe.
Crazy numbers. It just shows how amazing this season has been so far.
Yeah, and it really gives me a lot that I'm excited about going forward. And I'm really glad that you highlighted those different stats, Fletcher, because there is a lot to be positive about. And I can get into it too, where it'll be, oh, well, we've got this deficiency and there's this hole, and we'll talk a bit about it. But the team is really good.
Yeah, I mean, even to highlight how good that they are, for the first time in franchise history, on the road, they've won every game. Undefeated on the road. Undefeated away from Ford Field. And the best part about it for the fans is every game, there's been a Let's Go Lions chant loudly, audibly in the microphones. There's been a Jared Goff chant audibly, loudly in the microphones, taking over stadiums. It's really insane, if you've grown up with the Lions, to see fans wearing bags in the over their face in the home stadium, to like now people going all the way to Santa Clara, California, and like making that very proud red and gold stadium, Honolulu blue and silver, making Lambeau Field, which is like the most historic football stadium in this country, making that like Lions Northwest is an insane thing to really think about. And I know it sounds like I'm talking like the season's over. It definitely is not. They have a very big game next week. But like, to see stuff like this happen with this team after knowing what they've really all been through, it's honestly insane.
Yeah, and it's that mix of traveling fans, Metro Detroiters, near and far, expats, all of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Fletcher Sharpe, but I believe this is the first time they've won against the 49ers on the road since 1975, I think in Candlestick Park. That is a Lions stat where now we talk about stats that are, older than when somebody was around or when they were a kid. That is from before when I was alive.
Yeah, I mean, that's also taken into effect. The 49ers have a history of being very good, and the Lions have a history of being just good, like pretty good. But the 49ers for a long time were like the gold standard of the NFC, and then really just NFC West. It was like whoever they had, they could find a random guy at quarterback after Steve Young and just make it work, and they'll just get some receivers and make something work. Now it's a very different team. We really would have hoped that they broke that streak last year, but breaking it now is better than ever.
The thing is, though, is that for the most part, outside of the injuries, I think this is a far better team than last year. I know that's something to say. I mean, last year's team was really good, but outside the injuries, this is, I think, a better team than last year.
Overall, they compete a bit better. I said something on Threads, and I feel kind of bad because I feel like a jerk thing, but I think it's also a very true thing. If you take one player off this Lions team and put them on last year's team, they go to the Super Bowl, and that one player is Tim Patrick. If you take Tim Patrick and replace Josh Reynolds, Tim Patrick's not dropping those passes. Tim Patrick's also holding his blocks. The Lions are in the Super Bowl. And honestly, given the way that the Chiefs played, they had a decent chance to win. Like, I don't want to look back and be, hindsight 2020. But Tim Patrick being on this team now is such an upgrade. He's a big body who he's happy to make contact with you. And also, if it's his time to catch a ball, he will catch a ball. But on two of the most explosive plays that happened during the game, the hook and ladder play for Jameson to go for a touchdown and Jahmyr Gibbs' game-sealing touchdown down the right, the first big block laid was by Tim Patrick, who then laid the block and then got down the field to make another block. In order to win games, big games, not just these regular season games, but like the playoff games and the ones that really matter, you need players like this who are willing to just step up and say, I might not get the ball. People might not really buy my jersey or whatever, but you're going to know that I'm in there. I'm going to make a play when it counts. So to see someone who, honestly, if it's a long shot, could be nominated for NFL Comeback Player of the Year, to see that and have him step up in this way at this point of the year, it's great, but they're really going to need him to keep doing it.
For sure. It brought a smile to my face to see Adams get a sack. I think only his second in the NFL or something like that. I like to see those players stepping up and finding ways to make a difference.
Especially when they really needed it. I know in the first half, Brock Purdy was going to get a Matt Flynn deal. I know, for those who don't know, way before the Packers used to beat the Lions consistently, they had a game where Aaron Rodgers was not going to play the last game of the season, and the Lions were like, well, we'll get a chance to win this game and do whatever. And former LSU quarterback, historic backup Matt Flynn started that game and threw 6 touchdowns for the Packers. And then right after that season ended, someone signed him for $70 million. And he was not worth $70 million. I think he maybe threw 12 touchdown passes the rest of his career. But he threw 6 against the Lions and looked great. And I'm like, they're going to make Brock Purdy. He's going to leave the 49ers after this year probably. Someone's going to give him a bunch of money because they're going to say you threw for 5 touchdowns against the number 1 team in the NFL. They're gonna Matt Flynn him after the first half. But thankfully, the defense woke up. And, Adams got a sack. Brian Branch got his first sack of the season. They applied way more pressure and made Purdy throw from positions he didn't necessarily want to throw from.
Yeah, and Purdy at the end of the game got hurt, apparently. And as I said, we're recording this early on Tuesday morning, has some sort of nerve injury in his elbow. And the coach is non-committal as to whether or not he is going to be playing in the season finale. And just the look on Purdy's face at that end drive there, it was like this game didn't end the way that he thought it might end on him.
Yeah, I mean, you never want to see someone get hurt. Unfortunate play. Branch got in there, hit him, and as he fell, someone else kind of fell on him as well. And it just kind of stinks. It's just, you never want to see people get hurt.
For sure. All right, so what is your Fletchometer thinking about this Vikings matchup where it's just wild that either you're going to win the NFC, have a bye week, all that great stuff, home field advantage, or if you lose, you will be a 14-3 team in the 5th wild card spot. It's crazy.
Yeah, it just shows how crazy this season's been. Someone put out a tweet where they're like, some fan base is going to have their next loss be heartbreaking, but the records this year are insane. And they're like, the Chiefs are 15-1. The Eagles are 13-3. The Lions and the Vikings are 14-2. Their next loss is going to be crushing for them. And like, yeah, that's such an insane thing to really think about, is like these records are so sky high, and all this great work for a season that like it would potentially, for three of those teams, end really badly. No matter what, if those teams don't win the Super Bowl, one team's going to be very happy. Three of those teams are going to be very upset.
But how are you feeling about it, Fletcher Sharpe? Like, what are you thinking as we are sitting like a week-ish away from this? How are you seeing things play out? Like, how are you feeling about this?
I don't want to say it's a toss-up. The Vikings looked great against the Packers to start, and then near the end of the game kind of started pulling away. Like, they started the game pretty hot. They had pressure on Jordan Love, who was making some mistakes in the middle of the game. He kind of cleaned it up near the end, but the Vikings held on. If the defense starts slow against the Vikings, you're going to have to hope that your offense can catch fire the way it did this week. That's not really something you want to subscribe to all the time. I think the Lions can win this game. You kind of want to hope it's not a shootout, because that's just a bunch of anxiety. Because I do think that the Vikings offense is better than the Lions defense. More so than I think the Lions offense is better than the Vikings defense. I think that if you leave it to get into a shootout, it might not win that game. But I think if they can keep it kind of close, maybe get the run game going. Jahmyr Gibbs has shown that he can be a number one running back. If David Montgomery cannot go, Jahmyr Gibbs showed he can carry the load for this team. Craig Reynolds was great, giving some spell carries to Jahmyr. But, you draft him 12th, you kind of hope he can give you the number one running back carries. And he's showing maybe on the short end of his season, he can definitely do that. But if Jahmyr can get going against the Vikings defense, chew up some yards in the middle, tire him out, get towards the wing, Jameson's making plays across the middle, Amon-Ra's doing his part as well, I think the Lions should be okay. They should have enough to keep the Vikings offense off the field, score a touchdown, bleed the clock a little bit, and then give your defense more of a chance.
Is there anybody you think we might get back, especially on defense, before this one? Or is that just depending on how long we go into the playoffs?
They were talking about Anzalone potentially being back next week. He's definitely going to be back with a club. He's going to look ridiculous with a huge club in his hand. But they got Jalen Reeves-Maybin back for this game, which was helpful. He's a great special teams player, but I don't really want him lining up at linebacker. But you kind of take what you can have right now. But Anzalone being back, even with a club in his hand, would be great, because he's a ball hawk. In run defense, he helps. And pass defense, maybe he'll be able to knock something down with that clubbed hand.
No word on Aiden yet. Obviously he wouldn't play by this game, but do we still think if the team continues to press on, he might make it?
Maybe. They really shouldn't. I'm going to keep saying that. The injury he's coming back from is very, like every injury the Lions have with people on IR, it's pretty serious. But that injury he has to his leg, when they air cast you almost immediately after your leg goes down, your leg is bad. I was at the field house and someone broke their ankle all the way through, and he got an air cast like 20 minutes later. And I spoke to him later, and he's like, I just had my third surgery. So yeah, maybe I want you to take as long as you need to heal before you get back. And I know, just kind of like Dave Montgomery, who's been seeking like 17 different options to see if he needs surgery for his knee or not. I understand why you want to get back and play. Getting to a Super Bowl is hard. If a team looks like they might have a chance to go, you definitely want to get back and help and play. But your career matters. The fans appreciate you throwing your body on the line for this, but I don't want Aiden Hutchinson to play the rest of this year. Have him come back healthy next year and go from there. They've been saying that if he is going to play, it's going to be like the Super Bowl, which if they make it there, they get an extra week of rest. So that should benefit some of the players getting back then.
Before we go, if for some miracle or some weird set of circumstances, you get Aaron Glenn's headset as defensive coordinator against the Vikings, what are you going to focus on with the tools and cards that you have?
3 things. 1, making sure we call plays that don't leave our corners, specifically Terry and Arnold, on an island with someone like Justin Jefferson. If we have to help over the top with some safety help, okay. If we have to double cover, legitimately just put two people on him, fine. But don't let him dictate the game. And I know they have Jordan Addison, who was great in college and has been great so far. And they have Naylor from Michigan State, who's been great in the slot as well. If someone's going to beat you catching the ball, let it be Naylor. If he goes off for a career high 210 yards, then fine. Like, that would stink, but fine. We'll have to live with that. But if Justin Jefferson goes for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns, and I have to see that stupid gritty celebration in the end zone, I'm going to tear off part of my hair. Secondly, making sure your linebackers are ready to cover out of the backfield. Aaron Jones, for them, who came from the Packers, is a pretty good pass catcher, especially on third down. So making sure you're probably going to be lining up in space and needing to cover something. And my third thing is making sure I misplaced Kendall Valdor's helmet so he cannot go on the field.
Listen, Kittle from the 49ers turned him into Vildor. He walked right through the Vildor. It was just bad.
Keeping my headset on and being like, where is the special assistant whose job is literally just to keep hiding Kendall's helmet so he can't find it? It's like, you don't have a helmet, you can't go on the field. Sorry. He's going to like look up. It's going to be in like the popcorn vendor's like machine. Like, I don't know how it got there, man, but you got to get it out.
Cold, ice cold.
You got to get it out somehow, man. I don't really know how you're going to do it, but you got to get it out for you can come here. We'll give it to like we'll mail it back to his family's house. So he can't have a helmet. He's probably a really great guy and probably a really good locker room guy. And like, of course, I'm being as facetious as I can, but
because I have this mental image of him running into you at the grocery store and just mean mugging you.
He's not. He might just clothesline me, and honestly, I would deserve it. I wouldn't even. I'm like, you know what, man? You want to press charges? No, That's fair. I've been
talking smack about him for 15 episodes of Daily Detroit.
What can I do, man? You are right. And if he walked to me and he's like, "Yeah, what now?" It's a yeah. What I said isn't necessarily wrong, but like, if you want to throw me through a window pane, I totally understand, and I am not gonna press charges. I assure you. That's my bad, man.
Talk about an Instagram reel, just like a 10-second reel, and it's you getting like picked up by Vildor and tossed through a window.
You know what? If he wants more viewers, make it into a boomerang. I don't even care at that point. I might deserve it. If he could be limited to special teams, that would be amazing because he can get to runners. He doesn't necessarily bring them down all the time, but he can get there. The problem is when he's in space having to cover, his awareness just, I don't know what it is anywhere, but his awareness is just not great enough to be a coverage corner on this team. And if they somehow do win the Super Bowl this year or make it to the Super Bowl or do something of that nature, hopefully some other team sees him and says, oh, Kendall Vildor won a Super Bowl with the Lions. We got to sign him. And like, yes, you do. Yes, you need, I would give the most glowing review possible to get him on a division rival or some other team's roster to then target him every game that you can. I think the Lions have a pretty good chance to win next week. I think if they were going to Minnesota to play for the final game of the season, it would be a little bit different. The Vikings fans can be a little intimidating. They get that Viking clap down that they stole from Iceland. It can get kind of intimidating in there, but I think being at Ford Field, even though they have their 2 losses this season came at Ford Field, but I think being at home, everyone focusing on that game, the Lions typically tend to rise to the occasion when that happens. Yeah, I think the Lions squeaked this one out too. 31-28.
Complete with prediction. All right, I'm here for it. Well, of course, if you've got feedback, dailydetroit@gmail.com. And if we get enough of it, we'll do a special segment or something ahead of the game. And of course, we will be recording right after because it'll be another late night. The football gods are making it so that my early AARP bedtime that I like a lot has been totally blown out of the water.
Well, that's one of the things most Lions fans really had to experience with the Lions being bad is they don't put the bad teams in like primetime night slots. Like
I got so used to 1 p.m. starts.
Yeah, the good teams play at 1 p.m. and are typically blacked out. It's like you don't get to really see half their games because it's like, what's the point? But like teams start getting good, they put you in that 4:25 on CBS showcase, or they put you in that 8:15 Sunday night, or they put you at like the Monday night game where it's like everyone's watching you. So that's something the Lions fans will have to adjust to for sure, because they're going to be expecting them to be just as good next year.
And whoever came up with this schedule for the NFL, I think they're going to be asking for a raise, as this came together just perfectly. And I think a lot of people just didn't even expect it. I remember talking to Adam Schefter on the show, and it was like, well, what are the Vikings going to do? Well, the Vikings apparently are going to be in the run for number one in the NFC, neck and neck with the Lions.
Yeah, I remember he explicitly was like, the Lions are going to be great, the Packers are going to be great, the Bears have the pieces, and he's like, I'm not really sure what the Vikings are doing. Whenever I see them play a game and come out to win, I'm like even the experts who like know a lot and were right about a lot of stuff this season, were like, we don't know what the Vikings are doing. They got good receivers. They got Green Bay's running back. We'll see what happens. And they got the Red Rocket and Sam Darnold, who is doing mostly not Sam Darnold stuff of the past. So yeah, it should be a very exciting game. I'm sure everyone's going to be watching for a multitude of reasons. I'm sure the Packers fans watching will just hope both teams lose somehow. But it should be a very exciting game. If the Lions defense can play more like the second half versus the first half, they have a pretty good chance to win next week.
For sure. Well, Fletcher Sharpe, always so good to talk to you, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. With that, I'm Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Local media needs local support to make it happen. Remember that you are somebody, and we will talk, well, in the new year.